Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. So, allow me to share my screen. I know it's actually sharing right now. It's okay. So, as you can see, this past few weeks, we weren't able to meet because the last time we had a meeting, I was absent. And the other time was we do have a transport strike. That's why. And there are some, of course, holidays or Holy Week rather. So we do have three meetings that we miss. So today, we will have a recap or more likely a discussion about popular ethics, and we will try to discuss the critical approaches. So you can review this before your midterms. But hopefully we can meet by Friday so we have a proper discussion, okay? So or what? Allow me to share my screen. Okay, this one. I hope you can see it now. Don't worry, I'll be sending this PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so good day everyone. Today we will discuss Module 3, Popular Epics. So this topic will help us understand how stories of heroes reflect the values and culture of different societies. But before anything else, I want to ask this question. So who is your hero? Okay. Is it a family member, a celebrity, or even a fictional character? Okay. So the reason why I ask you this is because some may say their parents, their friends, or loved ones because of their sacrifices, while others may choose superheroes, like fictional superheroes like Spider-Man, because of bravery. So the in literature, heroes are often found in epics. So let's define what is an epic. So an epic is a long narrative poem that tells a story of a heroic figure that represents or who represents the values of a nation or culture. For instance, a hero is an epic. Okay. Epic is not just strong, but also show courage, loyalty, and wisdom. So let's understand it even more. So epic poetry has been continues to be used by peoples all over the world to transmit their traditions from one generation to another without an aid of writing. So these traditions frequently consist of legendary narratives about the glorious deeds of their national heroes. Okay, so here are the famous examples of famous epics rather. So we have the Iliad, origin is ancient Greece. We also have the author or the writer of the story. We have, or the main character rather. We have Achilles or the Iliad, the Odyssey, ancient Greece, and the main character here is Odysseus. Okay. We also have Beowulf. We weren't able to discuss Beowulf, but the origin of the story is Anglo-Saxon. Main character, Beowulf, the Divine Comedy from Italy. The main character is Dante. And we also have here from the Philippines, B.L. Milam-Ang. Okay, the main character, of course, Lamang. Okay, so allow to start for our first story epic. We have the Iliad. So last time we had a reporting, and I know some of the groups weren't able to discuss, but some of them were able to upload the video discussion, which is I really appreciate that class. Okay, so let's talk about the Iliad. So as you can see, Iliad is an ancient Greek epic poem. It's very popular, traditionally attributed to the poet Homer, the composer around the 8th century BCE, and it is one of the foundational works of Western literature and a central text in the Greek epic tradition. The poem dramatizes a few weeks in the final year of the Trojan War, focusing on the rage of the hero Achilles and its consequences. Okay, so as you can see, Iliad is one of the greatest epics known in ancient Greece. So the story revolves around the hero Achilles. He is the strongest warrior of the Greek army. However, his anger begins when their leader, King Agamemnon, disrespects him by taking away his prize. Okay, because of this, Achilles refuses to fight. So without Achilles, the Greek army start to lose. The Trojans, led led by the noble warrior Hector, okay, gain the upper hand. Things become more tragic when Achilles' closest friend Patroclus wear his armor and goes to battle in his place, but Hector kill him. Okay, but Hector kills him. So this moment changes everything. Achilles is filled with a grief and a rage, and he returns to battle, defeats Hector, and drags his body as an act of revenge. However, this is like, in the end, King Priam, Hector's father begs Achilles to return his son body. Moved by compassion, Achilles finally let go of his anger. So, you know, this epic teaches us that anger can lead to destruction, but compassion can restore humanity. So let's just relate this to our, you know, current issue that we have. So we have US, Trump, and we also have um the other enemy of Trump, right? So it's they really having they actually they have an anger to each other, and it can definitely affect other people, and it affecting some of the countries. And here in the Philippines, we are very affected, especially the jeepney drivers, not only the jeepney drivers, but all of us. So it's actually pretty the same with the range is going on right now. And like what I said, it can lead to destruction, and it is leading to, it's happening. The destruction is happening right now, but somehow they cease the fire, or ceasefire the war for 2 weeks. That's what I actually heard from the news, and hopefully we can restore everything. Everything's going back normal, because we are really having a hard time. So this is actually a perfect example of our current issue that we have right now. Next, one another popular story written by Homer is the Odyssey. Okay, so Odyssey, which tells the long and dangerous journey of Odysseus as he tries to return home after the Trojan War. So his journey lasts for 10 years. Imagine. And it's filled with challenges that test not just his strength, but also his intelligence. One of his famous encounters is the Cyclops, Polyphemus, a giant man's monster. So Odysseus, clearly tricked the Cyclops by calling himself nobody, and blinds him to escape. He also meet the sorceress, or the circle, who turns his men into pigs. Instead of giving up, Odysseus bravely confronts her, and she eventually helps him. Another challenge comes from the sirens, right? Sirens. So sirens, whose beautiful singing lures sailors to their death. Odysseus order his men to block their ears, while he himself is tied to the ship so he can hear the song safely. Right? So after many struggles, he finally returns to Ithaca, but find that many men trying to marry his wife Penelope. But he actually disguises himself, and he tests their loyalty, reveals his identity, and defeats him. So here, the story, the epic shows that the true heroism is not just about bravery, the strength, but also intelligence, patience, and perseverance. So this is another great story, or an epic story of Homer. Okay. Next, we also have, okay, this is the the summary of the story, we also have Biag ni Lamang. This is a famous, famous Ilocano epic from the Philippines. So Lamang is no ordinary hero from the moment he is born. He can already speak and act like an adult. So this shows that epic for a while. Let me just check if this is really recording. Okay, yeah, it is recording. Okay, okay. So he bravely you know, faces and defeats them, showing his courage and strength. So he later falls in love with a beautiful woman named Ines Canoyan. To win her hand, he must prove himself worthy by performing incredible feats. So, however, tragedy strikes when Lamang is eaten by a giant um fish during a fishing trip, but in surprising twist, he's brought back to life with the help of magical creatures. So the epic highlights Filipino values such as bravery, love, resilience, and belief in the supernatural. This is actually one of the great story. Okay, next let's have El Cid. So El Cid is a Spanish epic. Okay, epic about honor, loyalty, and justice. The name El Cid is a Greek translation, chief or lord. Okay, the story follows by the full name of Rodrigo Diaz de Vebat, also known as El Cid, a noble warrior. Despite his loyalty, he is falsely accused and exiled by his king. So instead of giving up, El Cid proves his worthy through battles. He wins victories, gains weight, and earns respect even from his enemies. Eventually, the king forgives him, and his daughters marry noblemen. However, these men turn out to be cowards and mistreat his daughter. So Alcide demands justice, and his men fight and defeat the abusers in duel and restoring his family's honor in the end. And of course, his daughter marry a better man and Elsa regain his dignity. So basically, this epic teaches that true honor is earned through actions and justice will prevail in the end. Okay. Now, this is actually another categories or cantos in LC. There are the three main parts of the story, and each one focuses on the different stages of Elcid's journey. We have the first one, or Cantar del Misterio, or the Song of Exile. This is basically the beginning of the story wherein Elcid is banished by the king, and he leaves his family and start proving himself through battles. So it actually shows the struggle and determination. We also have Cantar de las Bodas, or Song of the Wedding, wherein Elsie becomes successful and wealthy after many victories. Yep. And last but not the least, this is the Song of the Outrage of Corpses, or Cantar de Alfrenta de Corpses. So the Infantes show they are cowardly and cruel, and they abuse Elsie's daughter and abandon them. And Elsie seeks justice, and his men defeat the Infantes, his daughters remarry better men. Now let's move to another story. We have Divine Comedy. The Divine Comedy written by Dante Alighieri. This is a 14th century epic poem by Italian writer Dante Alighieri, and widely regarded as one of the greatest works in world literature. So it's actually written in Tuscan dialect of Italian. It actually narrates an allegorical journey through the realms of the afterlife. We have hell, purgatory, and heaven, which is lies in the soul's path toward God and spiritual enlightenment. Okay, here we do have hell. For hell is the inferno, or the punishment for sins. So hell has 9 circles, and each one punishes a different sin. So we have the first circle, limbo, good people who didn't know God. They are not. that, physically punished, but they feel sad forever and longing. Okay. And for the second circle, we have loss or people who controlled by desire, and the punishment of loss is blown by strong winds and nonstop. The third circle is gluten, overeating, overindulgence. They are stuck in dirty and cold mud. And we also have fourth circle, which is greed, too much love for money, push heavy weights endlessly. So that's the punishment. We also have fifth circle or wrath. Here, angry people, they fight each other in a muddy river. And the sixth circle, heresy, or more likely the wrong beliefs. So they are trapped in burning tombs. Okay? And the seventh circle, we have violence. Violent people, they punish based on their actions. In the eighth circle, we have fraud, liars, or the trickster. The different, different punishment depending on lies. And ninth circle treachery or betrayers or betrayal. They are, frozen in an ice. They are hearts and betrayal. So okay, at the bottom is, of course, is Lucifer and Dante escapes by climbing, passing. And purgatory or purgatorio is where souls clean themselves before going to heaven. So think of it as like a second chance place. So before they climb, people who repented late must wait. So we have seven level terraces, each remove one sin. For example, we have pride. So they carry heavy stones. So the punishment are meant to teach and purify, not just, not to hurt them. And we also have our paradise. So heaven is a full of life, peace, and happiness with God. So it has nine levels or spheres, and each for different kinds of good people. For example, moon for people who broke promises, Mercury, people who wanted fame, Venus, loving people, sun, wise people, stars, great scenes. We have faith, hope, love. Okay, so I hope you understand the story of Divine Comedy, but more likely, Divine Comedy actually teaches us that our actions have consequences. And the journey of life is about moving toward goodness and enlightenment. So, to conclude all of these epics from the Iliad, the Divine Comedy, the Elcid, shows the different kinds of heroes and journey, and some heroes, you know, they have battles or they use their strength, bravery, intelligence, and others seek redemption, but all of them reflect the value of their culture, like biyag nilang ang. So I hope I'll be leaving you a question. So what kind of hero you do you want to be in your own story or in your own story? I hope you can reflect to that. And hopefully we can meet by Friday, but I will upload a video or a separate video of critical approaches. So to discuss it. So if you don't have any questions or clarifications, we can end this. But if you have, feel free to reach out or reply to our group chat. Thank you so much.